Hey, what's going on, everyone? Vega here for SerpentX Tech, and T-Swift and Company has come out with a updated firmware version. See, what they're doing is, instead of you having to pay upfront a particular fee and provide your MAC address, you can get the same firmware, same performance, but with just a 0.5% dev fee. And that's actually not bad compared to some other ones that I've seen, for example, FPJ Bitstreams, which can charge up to 15% dev fees. And they're doing this with minimum, hopefully, downtime. So these are other options available. You can either pay outright, from my understanding, or you can choose the one where you got the 5% dev fee. It's going to be up to you to decide. But I'm recording this before it's actually officially launched because I wanted to test and provide any data to T-Swift and Company to, obviously optimize anything that they might see or that we might see in our testing. Now, I've done videos on how to update the firmware on your Kaspa miners, but I only have the KS0 Pro, two of them. And I still have one that's running stock that we're going to test out right now, and there are some steps to complete this. And all we got to do is download the file provided by T-Swift and kind of go through the same steps. If we were originally using a previous firmware, we could just update from whatever modified firmware or T-Swift firmware that we had before to the newest one. But because we're going from stock to stock, we just need to upload the firmware and restart it 2 times. So I did run it through the virus total, just checking to make sure there was anything malicious on it. I didn't find anything malicious in previous files from T-Swift, and I didn't find any on this one. But we're logged into my machine right now. This is the stock one that Joey runs in his room, my son. Trying to get them to be involved in crypto and learn a little bit more about it. And you can see it's definitely got the stock thermal solution because it's got a 2 temperatures of 63 Celsius and 49 Celsius. So we're not going to be able to push this thing far until we improve the thermal solution. One thing we can do is, before we even really let this thing ramp up after we install the firmware, is to just make sure that the fan speeds, the smaller fans, are blowing as hard as they possibly can. Now remember, if you're going to be modifying the firmware and using the high-end hash rate, right? The 340 gigahash, 320 gigahash from T-Swift and Company, you need to definitely modify your Kaspa KS0 or KS0 Pro. As far as the larger ASICs, I would urge you to go check out their Swift mining telegram to make sure that you're doing whatever you can to try to mitigate thermals and keep it comfortable, because you do not want to damage these units. So I already have the file downloaded. It's just a matter of going to it. So we're going to go to our downloads real quick, and we're going to extract it and look at the files that are within it with you guys right now. Again, recording this video before it's official, so I don't want to show anything I shouldn't, but it looks like they got everything in here. We got everything from the 250 gigahash version all the way up to the 360 gigahash version. I am definitely not going to be able to run that bad boy on the stock unit. And of course, the README file does have the same steps that we're familiar with, where it says, restore the factory settings, which we talked about before. All you got to do is click restore right here. Then, restart if need be. Restart. I like to restart the device. And then upload the INT file, which, if we go to the folder right now, we can see the INT file is right here at the bottom. Restart again. And then select the firmware version. We're going to start at 250 GL on the stock one and monitor it, because I know I'm going to be pushing these MOSFETs to a hotter temperature if we're already sitting at these thermals. Restart once again. And then obviously, if we reset the default settings, we need to make sure our pool address and our wallet is updated. Otherwise, we're mining for somebody else. And once that's all restarted, then it's a matter of just monitoring it and maintaining it, especially if I don't have the right thermal solution on it, just to make sure we're not cooking this bad boy. I am assuming all risk. T-Swift and Company are not liable. And just make sure you check out some of my previous videos talking about modifying and the options to modify your Kaspa KS0 or KS0 Pro to help you make the right decision and try to improve thermals for your particular device. So I'm going to do all that off camera. Maybe show you some power draw numbers before and after, and bring you back once we actually settle down, the hash rate settles down over time, thermals and all that good stuff. But it's actually not a bad option compared to paying up front the amount that you would have to buy the firmware, to just accept a 0.5% dev fee. Now, the dev fee is going to last indefinitely for the time that you use the device, compared to a one-time payment. But I let you weigh out the pros and cons once you know the pricing, which you need to go check out the Telegram, which I'll have linked down in the description, to actually decide what you want to do. All right, so we got some power draw numbers, and believe it or not, we might be able to not have to do all the steps that I originally mentioned. According to the user guide, or the T-Swift Telegram, there are some steps that we can do to just basically update it, right? We're going from stock firmware to new firmware, so update it, let it restart, and then restart again, and it should pick up. But I want to monitor what the power draw is, or what the numbers are per chip, because the dashboard doesn't give you all that information. So we just need to select the KS0 Pro. This is an Ice River monitor software from T-Swift and their Telegram as well. So now we can see the individual chip temperatures. Highest one we got is 58.97. Oh, 59.89. Oh, 60 right here. So number 11 is the hottest chip we got. And for me, because we really care about the VRM, so you can see on the dashboard, it does have the same temperatures, 54 and 44 on the Ice River monitor. The two temperatures right here, board in, board out, about the same. But this board out temperature, if that's really hot, that means your VRMs, or your MOSFET, are getting really hot. So there's MOSFETs that we need to cool with heat sinks, as we talked about in a previous video, and then there's the chokes behind it. The choke should be fine, but those MOSFETs are going to need extra cooling. So we're going to mod this, right, which is still doing around 208-ish gigahash. We need to monitor those thermals. And then obviously we're limited by power because we only have a 120 watt power brick, which is not recommended whatsoever. The biggest thing, or the biggest takeaway I want you to take from this video, is the dev fee rather than the upfront fee. It's going to be up to you to do all the rest. So I'm going to simply update the firmware per the requirements, and basically go from there. But it doesn't look like we need to do every single step that was in the README file that I mentioned earlier. We can just select the one we want, let it update, which we're doing right now. Restart. Once the web GUI comes back online, restart again. I will let you know when you come back in just a second. All right, so we are looking at a power draw of 91.7 watts. That's not going to be good in the long run, because this thing has a stock power supply of only 120 watts, and it's running on stock airflow. So turn these fans all the way up to 100, and let's see what the 250 gigahash version will do to the power draw. Right now we're just waiting for the device to come back online. We really want to catch it and restart it as soon as possible, because I want to make sure that these thermals don't get too hot. If I see those thermals getting too hot, I'm immediately going to shut it down. Just shut it down. But you can see the firmware did apply, because now we got the T-Swift logo on the left-hand side. And we're going to give it a few. It's already been up for 40 seconds. We can see it up here in the top right if I get out of your way. Give it just a little bit longer. And then we're going to immediately restart as soon as this number updates again. And then hit the Ice River monitor as soon as we detect it on the network. All right, not sure if you can hear that, but we got the small fans at the highest speeds possible. And our power draw is sitting around 125 watts. So we're 5 watts over what this power brick is rated for. That's going to be a problem in the long run. I would not leave this on 24/7, because that could present a problem, and obviously prevent the chip from running, or the chips running at its optimum speeds. All right, so things are settling down after about 20 minutes, and we're sitting around 260 gigahash. Now, I've been monitoring temperatures, and I did max out the smaller fans to 100%, trying to keep the temperatures in check. And we got an outboard temperature of around 59 degrees Celsius, and our hottest chip, chip number 11, is almost at 67 degrees Celsius. A little bit toasty, but even if we were in the mid of summer here in Florida, I suspect the outboard temperature would only get up to about 62 to 64 degrees Celsius, with an air ambient temperature of 77 to 78 degrees Fahrenheit, which is where I keep the house at. However, I wouldn't recommend running this long term. One, our power supply, we're over 5 watts over its rating of 120 watts. And two, the MOSFETs, while they are okay and they're rated up to 125 watts, I would probably put some heat sinks on that bad boy. I would recommend doing that before you even apply this firmware. I just wanted to test it out before I did all those modifications, which I will plan on doing in the future, so stay tuned. So with thermals okay-ish, and us running the 250 gigahash, I don't really want to push it any further than this, but that's not the point of this video. While I am sharing this information with you, the main point of this video is just to let you know that you can get the firmware. There's two options, I believe. The firmware where you pay outright, no dev fee, or the firmware where you have a 0.5% dev fee and you don't have to pay anything up front, provide your MAC address or anything like that. I would challenge you to go check out the Telegram for T-Swift and company. However, I can't speak to all the other matters that some people have raised. That's irrelevant to me. I just care about the data and the firmware provided to me actually working, and it does. Both the dev fee one and the one paid outright. And both my miners are hashing away pretty good. My modified one has been stable at 340 gigahash or plus or minus for a long time. However, I leave it up to you, once again, to make the decision on what's best for you, your configuration, your setup, and especially your miners. Now, I did showcase it just for the KS0 and KS0 Pro, basically the same steps. But while the steps are the same, you need to go look at how other people are performing with their KS, 1s, 2s, 3s, Ms, Ls, whatever it might be. But that's going to do it for today's video. Do me a favor on the way out, though. Hit the like button, make sure to get subscribed, hit the notification bell to stay up to date, as well as check out additional links in the description to help support the channel and what we do here. And I hope you have yourself a wonderful day. Take care. I'll catch you in the next one. If you made it this far, please put hashtag YOLO in the comments down below. And I just wanted to let you know that if you are having issues, or maybe you just want to resell your device later on, you can always restore it back to default by using the web interface factory settings, restore factory settings. You can always use the Ice River firmware download. They got one for each miner, or you can just simply push the reset button that's on the miner. Just hold it down for 20 seconds and it will revert back to default. So if you have any issues, use that. And if you're reselling it, get it back to stock, unless you're selling it with the firmware. In that case, then you should get a little penny on that sell price. Good luck to you.